Hi, everyone. Today, we will be discussing phonics. We will start by reviewing the 5 pillars of reading, and then we will explain what phonics is, as well as understanding its importance. We will also participate in an engagement activity with our peers, and after the activity, we will discuss the benchmarks, assessments, and current curricula that we use in our school for phonics instruction. And lastly, I will explain how this can be related to our multilingual learners. After today's session, I will ask you to fill out a Google form and plan a time to meet with me and your team. The 5 pillars of reading are phonological awareness, phonics, vocabulary, fluency, and comprehension. Phonological awareness includes phonemic awareness, and this pillar focuses on the ability to recognize and manipulate spoken parts of sentences and words. Phonics teaches students the relationship between letters and their letter sounds. Vocabulary is the knowledge of words and word meaning. And reading fluency consists of 3 essential components: the ability to read connected text accurately, at a conversational pace, and with the appropriate use of prosody or expression. And lastly, comprehension is the process of gathering and developing meaning from text. Now let's move into discussing what phonics really is. It teaches students the systematic relationship between the letters and letter combinations, also known as graphemes, in written language and the individual sounds, or phonemes. It assists in the understanding of the alphabetical principle, which is the relationship between letters and spoken sounds. Phonics instruction is geared towards beginner readers, usually in lower elementary, as well as students who are struggling with reading in upper elementary. These struggles could include decoding, automaticity, and fluency. Now, let's talk about why phonics is so important. Phonics instruction includes foundational skills needed to become fluent readers and writers. The understanding of how different phoneme sounds, as well as the alphabetic principle, provides readers with a structured approach to decoding unfamiliar words in text. Without this important instruction, students will spend more time attempting to decode words when reading. This will negatively impact their comprehension because they are more focused on saying words correctly instead of understanding the text. Now let's discuss how we can best teach phonics. Each phonics lesson should start with a clear, achievable objective. Lesson plans may span over many days and could include multiple layers of instructional practice. They should begin with a review of previously taught concepts, as well as going over any misconceptions students may have. Solidifying these skills takes a lot of practice and review. When a new concept is introduced, it should be explicitly taught before beginning to practice. All practices should include the I do, we do, you do approach. In I do, teachers will model the activity. Then moving on to the we do, you will guide the group through practice while participating with the students. These two sections can be used for feedback for the students. And then in the you do, you will have students practice independently to model their proficiency. All right, now we are moving into our engagement activity. I would like you to please split up into your grade level teams. I hope everyone is ready to have some fun because we will be playing Simon Says. Please select one member in your group to take on the role as Simon. We're going to say commands a little differently in this Simon Says game. For example, instead of saying, Simon says, touch your nose, you will say, Simon says, touch your n, o, z. And then the players should blend the phonemes together in their head and touch that body part. Whoever is selected as Simon must come up with actions involving body parts and phonetically say those body parts. Another example could be Simon says, pat your head, and players would pat their heads. I will give the Simons a few moments to come up with some actions for the game. I hope everyone enjoyed our activity. Now we're going to be discussing benchmarks and assessments used in our school. First, we'll discuss DIBELS. These assessments, in most cases, include giving the student a word that they must identify the sounds or phonemes that make up the word, or they are given phonemes and they must correctly blend them together to make a whole word. For iReady, an iReady diagnostic gives students questions to assess their phonics abilities. Based on how students answer the questions, the difficulty will change. And for our upper elementary students, if they show that they can successfully complete multiple phonics practices, then they may test out of the phonics section. After the diagnostic, a student path is made based on their results. Online activities are then given to the students based on what reading level they have. Both of these assessments are given in the fall, winter, and spring. Moving on to our current curricula that we use in our school. Wonders is used in all classrooms, kindergarten to 5th grade. It emphasizes phonics instruction by incorporating it into the curriculum specifically for kindergarten through 2nd grade. And by introducing phonics in early grades, students will be able to accurately recognize familiar words and be able to successfully decode unfamiliar words. Foundations teaches students how to blend sounds into words and how to read and spell words using multiple syllable patterns. And Foundations is only in our kindergarten through 2nd grade classrooms. Unfortunately, time in the curriculum is not made for grades 3 through 5 for phonics instruction. If students need further support, they may need Tier 2 or Tier 3 instruction. Now, lastly, we will be discussing our multilingual learners. Some skills that multilingual learners will benefit from when learning to read in English are developing decoding skills, specifically focusing on phonemes that do not exist in their language, or their phonemes that may not exist in our language. And this will assist them in being able to sound out unfamiliar words in English. And supporting the language transfer and bridging the differences in the sound and letter relationships across the languages will also assist them. Building the student's confidence is extremely important. You can do this by having multiple practices in the classroom that will help improve their reading and speaking skills. Having them interact with peers multiple times in the classroom will help them be more comfortable to use their English skills outside of the classroom. Enhancing their vocabulary will facilitate word recognition, pronunciation, and vocabulary growth. And lastly, improving fluency and comprehension will enable automaticity when reading, which will allow students to focus on the meaning of the text instead of focusing on how to say those certain words. Thank you so much for joining me today, and I hope you all enjoyed my presentation. After you leave, I would like you to please fill out the Google form with your grade level team. The questions include takeaways that you may bring into instruction and places where I can improve. Also, please provide some days and times that your team can meet. During these meetings, I can answer any questions and clarify any misunderstanding from today's presentation, and we can also discuss how phonics instruction may look in your classroom based on the specific grade levels that you are a part of.